Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this last session for today at Adobe DITA World 2016, the online DITA conference for marketing and technical communication professionals. And our last presenter today is Bernard Aschwanden from the US, and he talks about bring your technical content in line with your corporate design. So when we think about technical documentation and DITA and all this kind of stuff, we usually see a lot of boring looking, not very nice looking content. And some people have a lot of challenges to make the technical documentation look like the corporate design looks like. And Bernard will show us today how easy it is with FrameMaker to create templates for your content that look good and are in line with your corporate design guidelines. So, Bernard, the stage is all yours, and I'm happy when you share your screen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, let's get this started and make sure that things work. Quick bit of housekeeping and some note-taking. Thank you to Adobe and to the massive number of people who have signed up for these sessions. I want to let you know that as I work my way through the slides, they're not all equally weighted. Some of them are very much here to guide me through the discussion. So you may end up using some of these. You may end up going through and discarding some. That's totally legit. And the speed will vary because it is a reference, but it is a quick session. If you have questions, type them into the chat window. I have my phone running next to me so that I can look over and actually see the questions pretty much live. Bandwidth does matter, so close any background apps that you happen to have open, and hopefully that will help with audio as well. And lastly, I would love to make the claim that errors and typos is done on purpose, but they isn't, ain't, and weren't, never. However, I will fix them as I can. My background, I have a company called Publishing Smarter. I do a lot of content-related work. I'm a certified technical trainer and involved with the Society for Technical Communication. There is a disclaimer that I'm going to throw up here. In the interest of brevity, I will be making some blanket statements along the way to keep things simple. Generally, the things that I'm showing are largely the same in the 1.2 and 1.3 versions. There might be minor differences, but if you're working DITA 1.2 or DITA 1.3, you should be able to follow along. I've tried to make very clear, very concrete examples, and I'm going to show each of those pieces visually. It also means that not everything is going to be 100% the truth, but I will stay close. Purists may complain along the way. They're wrong. It's my presentation, so I'm going to go through and make stuff up as I can or demonstrate things as I can. Although they are also right. They will absolutely make totally legitimate points about some of the things I say. Bear in mind, I'm trying to do a balance between the time and the immediate need to go through the topics. So I'm going to get into it. I have a set of slides and I have some demonstration materials inside FrameMaker, and I will try to alternate back and forth between those. There is a question in regards to some of the sound from one person, and just checking in the chat. Okay, good, thanks Matt. I was going to ask if the audio sounds okay. My best bet, if you're having audio issues, check if email is sending, if FTP is loading something, if there's any synchronization happening. In the next 45-ish minutes, I'm going to go through and try to cover some of the things related to the FrameMaker 2015 release. There's a lot of different DITA templates, and these include ones for writing, topics, concepts, references, tasks, working with maps, and there's also others that are used when publishing. I want to show you where the templates are stored and how to do a bit of configuration. I can't hit every template and I can't hit everything in great detail, but I will give you some tips and tricks so that you can update the default templates to much more closely match any existing company template you have, or even replace the existing ones with your own styles. I'll show you how to adjust the EDD a little bit so that you can further refine the appearance of the output and really go through and explore a bit about the default templates and how some of the ideas in them can be recreated using your own templates. I'm going to show you how to quickly tweak a default template. I find that's really good for when you're first learning DITA and you go in and you choose to create new DITA content and you may not like all of the defaults. If there's a couple of quick things you can do, great. It also makes it easy to identify the template. If you can go in and just put in a little, is this the right template? And as soon as you create new, it says, is this the right template? You'll know that it is. I'll show you how to import the rules to your template. There's surprisingly little good that comes of doing this. The EDD that has been discussed earlier by other people has a set of rules that drive formatting, but it drives it based on defaults. And it's unlikely that those defaults match with what your defaults are. If that's the case, then you may end up mapping something or looking at something and trying it out and deciding that it's just too frustrating because it doesn't look like what you want. But I would almost throw back to everybody, what should the main first chunk of information at the beginning of a chapter not look like, but what should it be called? What should be the name of that paragraph tag? Is it chapter title? Is it main title? Is it heading 1? That question is the one that comes into play when we start looking at some of the EDD. There is a paragraph tag that is connected to the first paragraph at the top of your page in a chapter. It might just not be the exact name that you're expecting. So I want to talk a little bit about how you can rework the tag so that it matches what is expected, and that's mostly easy to do. I'm also going to work my way through changing some of the references from an EDD so that it uses your specific tags. And that starts to get a little more involved. You have to actually read the EDD and work with some of the insets that are in there to support the broad way that DITA works with elements. And at that point, it's going to require getting to know the rules of the EDD. And then I want to show you how to change an EDD by adding your own rules. That's also involved, but it's really, really cool to be able to go in and do those types of things, to build your own format rules. If this condition exists, then do something. There are other options that you can consider when it comes to updating templates. Not everybody wants to do every single step themselves. So I want to work my way through, but before you begin, you should have an awareness of the danger that you can run into when you start making these changes. The software is installed in the default installation location, usually on my machine in Windows, inside the Windows settings where I need permissions to do things. You can launch Frame as an administrator. And in order to do so, when you see something like FrameMaker and you right mouse click and then you go through and you specify Run as Administrator, it will launch and let you do all kinds of damage. Or what I went and did, I just changed every single security setting. It's not the best thing to do. I basically said, I want to go in and give myself full permissions to do anything I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, inside my FrameMaker folder. So be aware, there is a cautionary note there. Definitely create a backup of all your files, the EDD, templates, your own content, anything that you might be working with. And once you do start to make changes, test in a very iterative way. Implement a single change, see if you like it. If you do, move on. That way you know exactly where to go back to if you need to troubleshoot. So those are a couple of the warnings that are in play. Templates. For the author to have a custom setup, you probably want to go and work inside the DITA folder for people who are creating content. For example, on my machine, the red text that you see is the important part, but on my machine, in the C drive in Program Files x86 in the Adobe folder is this location, the Adobe Frame 2015 Structure XML DITA 1.3, Application for Technical Content, and the templates. And it is similar for 1.2 as well. Numbers change a little bit, but it's very similar. So here is the 1.3 app technical content. You can see that inside here, I've practiced a little bit of what I'm preaching. I have the Adobe default EDD. So this gives me the opportunity to roll back if I mess things up. I have my own version of them, which again gives me the opportunity to go to a custom version that I might be developing and playing with. I've done the same with the template. I have both the Adobe default and I have my own version. And then I've gone in and I've made an EDD zip file and a template zip file of the originals. I get paranoid. I really want to make sure that I don't mess up my original files, so I definitely have a lot of backups. The other thing I did was I created a book document. I'm going to switch over and show you that. And inside the book document, I have a path to the template for concepts. I have a template for the actual concept template. I have a template for my Publishing Smarter environment where I have my own template that I want to work with. And I have an EDD for the concept. So what I'm doing here is looking at just the concepts. And I'll come back to this in a few moments, but I just want you to see a little bit of the behind the scenes things that I've done to set up, as well as the fact that I'm going to work inside the Adobe Frame 2015 Structure XML DITA 1.3, etc. folder. This slide, now we are at, give or take, 10 minutes in. If you are going to go back and review any of the video, what you want to do when you're jotting down notes on how to do things is not write down the step-by-step that I'm about to do. It will be too fast and too furious as I work my way through and test this or test that. Instead, you'll just write down 10 minutes, because about 10 minutes into the video is where I start actively showing you things inside the software. I'm going to go and just create a quick task or concept reference, whatever it is that you would want to work with. And again, because of the time, I'm going to focus on the concept. I'm going to take a look at the default appearances, and then I'm also going to open an existing document. So let's switch over to FrameMaker for a second. I'm going to close off this one file that I have open. And what I'm left with is the default FrameMaker environment. Yes, I have a book document. I will come back to it in a little bit, but for starters, I'm just choosing DITA, and I want to make very specific mention under the DITA options that I'm using the DITA version 1.3. If you're using a different version, then the application mapping is going to be a different version of the application, probably 1.2 if you're in 1.2, and the path for the files is going to be a little different. Again, mine is the 1.3, and if you go and literally change it from 1.3 to 1.2, you can switch back and forth between them. I've also created shortcuts to the publish folder and from the publish folder to both 1.2 and 1.3. So I have a couple of different ways of navigating back and forth. Again, exclusively for this session, I'm going to work inside the 1.3 materials. And as a quick test, I'm going to choose to create a new concept. I want to make sure that I get the right location for the right file. So it opens up a document, and a few things I want you to note here. I want you to pay attention to the zoom setting of the document. It's currently 100. I'm going to do something a little goofy here. I'm going to set it to 50%, which is not what I would recommend for normal typing, but I'm going to go in and, I'm going to type my title here. And you can see that there's the title. Then I'm going to close this and not save it. So anytime that I go in and I choose to create a new document, it opens up, it uses that template. If I save a file, I have here a sample concept, and I pop it open, it opens up and it opens in a template, and that template has 100% zoom, and it has the text application overview and a bullet list and a bunch of other material in it. I'm going to close that. And now I want to show you something really cool. Inside the folder, and I'll switch over to the folder so that in the video, you know exactly where you need to work your way to. In the Adobe FrameMaker 2015 install, Structure XML DITA 1.3 app technical content, there is a folder called template. And within that, I have my little sample concept, but I also have all of the Adobe files that are provided, including the concept template. This is the file that I have the shortcut path inside my Adobe DITA book. So I can open it up by taking it from here and opening it. I can close that, and I can also open it up by just double-clicking inside the book document, in the second file here, the concept template, and open the template. So that's the template that I'm going to work with. And now watch what I'm about to do. By the way, there's mention of huge holes in the sound. Is anybody else running into sound bubbles, issues with the sound? Just checking the chat window.
No, seems to be that is a problem from single attendees. Sounds totally fine here.
Okay.
I'm in Germany. Perfect. And I'm currently online through my mobile phone through 3G only, and it's absolutely fine.
And again, I just want to double check. And I love seeing sounds fine in Las Vegas. I was in Vegas last week, and things sounded fine while I was there as well. If you are having audio issues, again, shut down anything you have running in the background, and definitely watch the video. After the fact, the sound should sync up really, really nicely once you're able to download the material and it's all compiled and streamed to you directly. In any case, I'm going to pop open this concept template file, and I'm going to come along and do something that you should never do. I'm going to just open up the graphics tools, and using my text tool, I'm going to type some text up here, and then close my graphics tools. Now, the reason I say you should never do that is because I'm going to save that and close it. And again, if we go over, and I'm not going to do this every time, but I come back into here and I open up my concept template, which was modified mere moments ago. It has some text up here. That's the text that I just added to the template. When I go in and I create a new concept, it's going to base it on the template. And inside here, it also has some text up here. And lastly, if I take an existing document and I pop it open, so here's my sample concept. When I pop that open, what do I get? Well, I get some text up here. So these are a couple of things that I really need to be aware of. I'm ending up with way more information that I don't specifically want because I'm seeing this text up here. But it lets me know that this is the exact file that I need to go in and manipulate. And it also means that if I overwrite this concept template FM file with one of my own documents, it will become the template that is used every time I create a new concept or every time that I open up a concept. Well, let's take that template and just make another quick change here. I'm going to get rid of this text up here. I'm also going to go in and change my zoom from 100, and I said keep an eye on the zoom. I'm going to zoom it out to 50, which again, I don't normally suggest that you go and you change. Save it, close it, and again, I pop open my concept. Again, I go in and I choose DITA, new concept, and you can see that these are at 50%. So it's a nice quick way to go in and test whether or not the document you want to work with is the actual document that you are working with. There's also things like your view options, borders, text symbols, rulers, etc. But you can also view element boundaries or boundaries as tags. This is something that some people really like when they're first starting off. So if I come along and I create a bit of a structure, you can see that I have all the tags showing. Always remember to delete anything that's in your template after you've gone in and done your configuration. I'm just going to close that without saving it. But if I had saved it, then every new concept would show up with tags. So this is fantastic if you come along and you realize your authors really like to be able to see all of those bits and pieces. If that's the case, take your concept, your tasks, your references, all your templates, open them up and configure them. If you're going to make the change in bulk, create a book document, add your concept, database, etc., your reference, task, topic, add them all to the book, and then change around inside your book document your view settings. That way you can do this quicker. Instead of opening one file, make a change, the next file, make a change, the next file, you can import these types of settings inside a book document. All right, let's move back over to the slides and make sure that I am on topic. So I open up a template, I changed the zoom, I created some new material, in my case a concept, I viewed some of the defaults, I open up the template, I changed around some view settings. As you make those changes, as you save them, you can go in and create a new document, or you can open an existing, in my case, concept, but you can do the same with a task or a reference, etc. Everything looks good. Just checking inside the chat. All right. As mentioned, I will have to have a recording of this. I'm assuming it might be because I'm covering things quickly. It might be because there's some really cool stuff in it, or it's a combination of the two. And yes, I am going to be going through quickly on these types of things. All right. At an absolute minimum, and there is an asterisk, right? The asterisk is like the sign of death to come. You want to be careful. The absolute minimum, which is not at all recommended by anyone ever. If you want super easy, use the defaults that ship with FrameMaker and tell yourself, I like the look and feel. By the way, I'm just doing a quick check here because my screen is not refreshing on my phone, but that could just be Connect acting up. Let's just double check this. All right, yeah, I can see the information here. All right, if I'm going to go through and open the EDD and my own template and import the settings, bear in mind that the local document and the EDD don't match up. I mentioned that earlier. If that is something that you're going to be running into, if you want to go in and tweak and customize the look and feel, be really aware of some of the potential issues that you're going to be running into. That biggest issue is probably going to be that your template and the default templates don't match up. So you're going to see I'm bringing content across. You'll understand as soon as I go in and take a look at it that there are going to be things that don't look right. I will start to fix them, and I'm going to show you at least 2 or 3 different ways to fix them. All right, here we go, fingers crossed. This is my template, and it has a bunch of unstructured content in it right now. You can see that that looks dramatically different from the sample content when I pop it open. This is at 50% zoom right now, but inside this document, you can see that the headings and the bullets look quite different from what I have inside my environment. I have blue headings. I have this chapter number in the background. I have a short description that really stands out. It's quite large. I have a set of color headings. So there's a few things that are going to come into play here. One of them is that if I import my EDD and I just take my file and save it, it's not a structured document. You can see in the structure view for my one environment, everything exists exactly as it's expected. If I go to my unstructured document, the structure view doesn't have anything in it yet. Let's try a few things. I'm going to be careful on this one. I've also gone in, just for the record, I've gone in, and inside here I've created a bunch of different backup files in order to play it safe. So you can see that I have things like my concept template backup. I also have inside some of my other environments, I have my EDD, and it has a concept EDD backup. So I've made very clear backups for myself on all of the different files that I'm working with. All right, template publishing smarter. I'm going to take the text that's in here. I will assume, hopefully everybody can remember generally, that the text looks a little different. It's blue. Things like information is much bigger. My bullets, my content looks customized. I delete it all. I'm going to take the sample content and copy it and paste it. Now, all of the sample content has been placed in here. The format automatically picks up the look and feel of my current file. And there's definitely some issues in this. And the good thing is, there's some text in here, like there are two main workflows. Inside both documents, I happen to have matching paragraph names for this text. Here, if I open my paragraph designer, you can see that I'm using body. If I switch to my custom template, I'm also using body. But if I highlight application overview, you can see that it's trying to use title.0, which in my original Adobe provided template has a look and feel already defined. That's what a title 0 looks like. I don't use title 0 inside my chapter. So let's start to figure out what we can do to get these pieces to work together. Going back over into the slides. I've opened up the EDD. I've gone through and I've previously imported the EDD rules, and when I import and I copy my content in, I'm done, kind of. I have all the structure, all the format, but my names don't match. It is not what I actually need. What I have here is a very, very basic starting point, but it's not at all nearly done to the point where I'm comfortable with it. Let's go and figure out some things that we can do here. If you want to further define what's in your template, you need to be able to work with the DITA 1.3 app technical content EDD as well as the DITA 1.3 app technical content template files. And again, for 1.2 it's similar. The paths may vary a little bit. This is where I'm going to start going in and doing very, very specific changes. And I'm going to try to do them one at a time because this is the part where you will want to be able to do your template updates to match the ideas that I'm representing, even if it's not the exact names that I'm using, because my paragraph tag names and your paragraph tag names don't necessarily match one-to-one. I'm also only showing this on paragraphs, but you can also do this with characters, with tables, with cross-references, with all types of formats. As I go in and I import the EDD, I am going to ignore any messages that pop up. Normally, you should read them and resolve them if they matter. Sometimes it's just an information message. Sometimes it's an actual message that really matters. And I hate to say it will depend on the message and you'll know if it matters, but it will depend on the message and you will know if it matters as you get comfortable doing these things. Many of the messages are information, but if you have an invalid EDD, which has previously been discussed by others, you could very likely run into problems. I am going to tweak the EDD. Then I'm going to file, import element definitions into my template, and I'm going to do this over and over. So let me do it once with what we have here. Just going to close off the background sample content for a little bit so that I have very few and very specific files open. I have a concept and I have an EDD for a concept. I'm just going to come along and choose File, Import, element definitions. And I did that through the keyboard shortcuts, but I'll show it once more here. File, import, element definitions. This is something you will do over and over and over as you do iterative testing. The keyboard shortcut for it in the Windows environment that I'm in is the Alt trigger, and you can see in File, the F is underlined, then the I for import, then the E for element definition. So I often do Alt F I E, File Import Element Definitions. The concept EDD is the file that I'm going to import from, and I'm going to remove any overrides that exist. It's a little bit like taking a template in FrameMaker, updating it, and then going to another file where there could be overrides, and when you import the template, you want to blow away the overrides and make everything as standard as you can. I import. I told you I'm going to ignore the error messages. It says, look, something's defined called topic, but it's not referenced, which is okay, because yes, there's a rule that says topic should be allowed, but there's no place inside the concept that I'm actively going to use topic. So I'm ignoring this message. I mentioned that earlier. I'm going to ignore them. Now I've done the import. This is what everything looks like, which is completely wrong. So I'm going to come through and just very quickly manually format a few things. This is a document title. Hey, look at that. That's much better. This is my short description. And notice the name here is not lowercase short dot description. I call it short description. All one word, capital S for short, capital D for description. Good. There's two main workflows, traditional, unstructured. This should be a heading of some kind. It's a heading 1 or a heading 2 or whatever it is. There we go. Actually, I've got a typo in this one. That's actually going to be a heading 1, title 1 eventually. So that's a little piece that I'll fix up afterwards. But I can go through and import, and these two here should be bullets. So I'm just going to go in and make them bulleted. There we go. Now it looks much more like my corporate template. And once more, I file import my element definitions. Whoops, Alt F-I-E. I remove all overrides. Any information the book may have passed down to this. And watch when I import. Again, I get the error, so I just close that. And all that work was for nothing. The formatting is gone, which is a very, very good thing to have happened. The reason all that formatting is gone is because the rules are being followed. That's one of the massive benefits of DITA. As I go through and I create content, it is going to identify this title being inside a section as being different from this title, which is inside a concept. And as those changes are being made, and I go from a one level of title to another, what I really want to see happen is my document correctly format material automatically. I don't want to leave it up to the users to have to make those decisions. It should just be good DITA content, good template, bring them together. I have good material to publish. So let's go in and figure out what's happening here. I have gone in and done some work, but not enough. So I'm going to do some changes where I hardly have to touch the EDD at all. Ideally, I don't have to do anything in the EDD. I happen to already know that I have some representative content for a concept. I've opened the template, I've inserted through copy and paste. Now I'm going to import the EDD, which I've done, and then I'm going to edit the appearance. I'm going to be really careful, but I'm going to use the designer. As a for example, let's go and take a look at something. I have some bullets in my document, and if I go in and I manually apply bulleted, capital B, I get the exact look I want. And here's a little note that says bulleted or UL bullet. Well, bulleted is what I have in my FrameMaker world. But my template, when I open it up and I look at sample content inside it, uses this style. And this style is called UL bullet. So somewhere in the EDD, and I'm not even looking at the EDD yet, somewhere in the EDD, there is a definitive rule that says, in a certain environment, use a UL bullet. Well, I want this to look exactly like a UL bullet. So here's my cheat to it. I open up my paragraph designer. I know I have something called bulleted, and I'm going to rename it UL bulleted. So I type over the name. I update all. If you've ever renamed a paragraph tag, this is what happens. And this message could really come back to bite you. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. Ignore, by and large, what's here right now for the purpose of the demo. But basically, it says you're in a structured document. You may end up making global changes you don't want. Yeah, okay, I'll continue. I'm going to rename every bulleted to UL bulleted. Now, I fixed this one manually. I still have a second bullet underneath. And that is going to become automatically formatted when I import my rules. Let's give it a shot. File, import, the element definition, the EDD will win. And in the EDD, whoops, I've got a typo somewhere. In the EDD, UL bullet ed, got to make sure that I get the ED at the end, update all. And I've got to make sure I've got the right look. Let me try that once more. I'm going to do a revert. This is one of the big reasons. Make sure that you always back your stuff up. Copy this, go into the chapter. Right, this is my recap. Yeah, that's it. It's recapping. Import the element definition. Okay. It has now back to where I started. I'm going to make one of these manually into my bulleted. I'm going to rename it. UL bulleted. Make sure I get the right spelling. Update all. And again, yes, I'm okay with making that change. And import my element definitions. It's dropping the ED. That's really annoying. And it has bulleted here. That is looking kind of buggy. What did I, oh, you know what? I know what I've done. I wrote down my notes, and I bet you it's UL bullet. Yeah, it's UL bullet. I'm making the mistake. I'm typing ED when it should be bullet, because in my notes, I'm looking at my old paragraph name. And again, I always make sure that I have that version that I can fall back to for the updates. Paste in, the beginning, apply bulleted, Stayed up and I watched baseball last night. I don't know if anybody else stayed up and watched the Chicago game. And then I had a screaming baby on the plane. The noise canceling headphones work well, but they only work well up to a certain point. All right. Now the good news is it's fast to go in and keep doing this over and over. Bullet. Put my format. And do it once more. Close the file. No, I'm not saving it. Open up my chapter. Bulleted. Paste in everything. Weird. Oh, because I've already imported my EDD. I have to rename it first. I'm just going to do the rename here. ul.bullet, not bulleted. Update all. This one should do it. Paste it in. There's my bullets correctly applied. And down onto the next page, there's my bullets correctly applied. So the general approach here is that you edit the appearance carefully using the designers. I took bulleted, and I'm going to actually fix the slide, right? I said there could be typos. Bullet. I rename between the old My Template naming convention and the new Adobe default EDD set of rules. And you can see that there's all kinds of little unexpected impacts. If I make a template change, if I rename something incorrectly, if I go through and I do any of that kind of work, I run into potential issues. Let's go in and do a bigger, different fix though. So one of them is a rename, and let's do one more rename here. Here I have application overview, which is title.0. In my original document, I had document title. Adobe had title.0. And again, I'm going to make sure it auto-corrected the T. title.0, update all. And now I'm going to take the sample content, copy it, go over to my chapter, paste it in for demo purpose, and there's my bullets. And if I got my names correctly, yes, there is application overview. If you do it right, it's super fast. The troubleshooting is super frustrating. All right, let's go in. Yeah, Dustin, FrameMaker always does exactly what you tell it to. That's actually my dad. I had taught my dad FrameMaker years ago, and he phoned me up one day, and he says, "This is stupid software." And I started laughing. I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because it does exactly what I tell it instead of what I want," which is the nightmare and the benefit of working with FrameMaker. It does exactly what you want if you tell it exactly how to do it. So let's go and take a look at the next one here. So in the EDD, I haven't done anything yet. Instead, I've just taken the template and I've made sure that I match it. Now, I'm going to go in and make another tweak. For example, if I need to update the title for something like the section, I'm going to make a change. It'll be a little silly just to see that it works, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to switch back over and look at the EDD. Now, time-wise, we are roughly 36 minutes in. Make sure, again, that if you're writing it down and you want to figure out how do you work with an EDD, you look at the 36-minute mark in the video, because this part's fun. This part is also more involved. So I'm going to go in and change around something very specific. I have a paragraph here. It is a heading, and I want to change the tag. And I've actually corrected the typo previously, but I want it to be the heading 1 in my document, which is a title 1 inside the EDD. So down at this level, I want to go in and make my next change. I don't want it to use title.1 at all. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, title.1 shouldn't even exist. I have something way better called heading 1. So what I need to do is set it up to use heading 1. And the reason that you would probably want to do this instead of some of the previous pieces is that if you run headers and footers and you base them on something like the use of heading 1, you would have to go to your running HF and you'd have to change that as well. Just more work. So all I want to do is say use my tag. And if it works, things like structured and formatting down here will get tweaked. Let's go take a look in the concept EDD file. Now I have to find where the titles are. Fortunately, I have a couple of things at my disposal, like my notes, where I've gone through previously and taken a look, because this is a 228-page document, and going through all 228 pages takes time. DITA is not an overnight venture. It's not something where you're going to say, yeah, you know what, it's Thursday. I think we should do DITA. Let's make sure that we have that in place for tomorrow. Here is a set of basic blocks, and in it you can see there's a title. And if I scroll downwards in the title area, it gets to some format rules. But all of this is an inset. And here's my text inset property. So I'm going to open the source. And the reason it's set up as an inset is that title is used not only inside concept, it's also used in reference and task, it's used in other places. As you make a change in one place, you can cascade that change to all other places. It also means that when you mess it up in one place, you mess it up in all the other places. So I'm going to scroll down here, and this is a 72-pager, and I happen to know that down on page 12 is my information, and I can get to it here. I've also previously gone in and played with these a little bit. So inside my structure, I've already got some stuff that was expanded or some stuff that was collapsed, but here's my title. Again, if you are familiar with an EDD, this is a tool that's really, really useful. If you're not familiar with it, you need to start figuring out the syntax of an EDD before you want to make changes. So here we go. This context rule says if it's inside some of these LC, true, false, etc. It's not. Is it inside syntax diagram or syntax block? Nope. Is it in a map? No. Is it inside a table? Is it in a condition? No. Oh no. Where will I go next? Well, what I'll do is I'll start taking some of these because rules can have further rules. This says if it's in a table. So that's how a table title gets applied. If a title is in a table, use table title. Now, if you happen to use table title, you would just change the text. If it's inside a figure, if it's in a linked list, and then we get to this one. This is the important one. if it's in an example or a section, mine is in a section. If we take a look inside my chapter, this title with the word formatting is in a section. The syntax matters. If it is inside an example or a section, and then there's a bunch of other rules, but section is the important one, and it's the highest level, title 0, otherwise title 1. Well, mine's not title 1, mine is heading 1. So I tweak the rules. I'm now going to tell it that if it's 2 levels deep, because it's not counting just sections, but also topics and concepts. In here, these titles are in a section, and the sections are in a concept, which means that it's 2 levels, which is why I'm going to have to set up the format so that it is 2 levels deep, and it's going to apply my heading 1. So I've made the change here. It reads heading 1. I save this. I close it. I'm going to take my inset because it's not only for concepts, it's also for tasks and references and everything else. And I'm going to take that text inset and do an update. And keep a good eye. I'm going to scroll down so you can see this, hopefully. Notice right now, if it doesn't move on me, we'll be right here on page 30. But right now, it reads else 1.2, count ancestors named example section concept, level 2, else if level is 2, use context label, etc. And then it has use paragraph format title 1. I'm going to go in and update that, and then I'm going to scroll back to page 30. Jumped, go to page 30. It's a pretty large, common set of elements. And you can see that here, I just scroll over a little. Right in this area, it actually reads heading 1. So I've changed the rule to use my preferred name. I go to my chapter. You look on the second page at things like structured and formatting. Again, file import element definitions. Low-way overrides. And now they're structured and formatting and word processing and bullets. And everything is good, except that I've got my short desk that I want to take a look at and see if there's anything else I can do here, because short description is currently reading body, and this is going to be the last change that I make in the last part of the video that I'm going to demonstrate. Stefan, I'm going to ask for your patience on it because I did run into that little error that I introduced, so I'll probably just be an extra 5 minutes or so. There's also changes you can make with a bunch of EDD work. In the EDD, you have to find the right place. What I'm going to do is add a rule for short desk. Right now, it doesn't have one, so it defaults to body. I'm going to change it, and I can do something silly. I'm going to make short desk into a table title just to make sure that it does what I expect, because short desk might end up looking really, really close to body, and I don't necessarily see the change. I want it to be totally noticeable. I'll see the impact, and then I'll put in the actual tag that I want. So let's go in and do a quick change here. In my EDD, I'm going to go scroll through, and again, in my notes, I've already written this down. It's really important to be able to find the elements. So there's the one called short desk. If you ever want to find these, as a total aside, nothing to do with the slides, good tip for anybody who has done this or has not done this, but you can build a list of elements and paragraphs that's alphabetical. I'm going to just create a really quick list of every tag and choose OK. And that gives me an alphabetical list, and it tells me exactly what page it's on. This is really, really helpful to me when I'm doing troubleshooting and I need to find things. So inside here, I can actually find that short desk is on page 6. Sometimes I make this into a 3, 4, 5 column page so that I have a bunch of them on the same page, and then I have a short document that I print and I just look at, and I can find anything that I want very quickly. I do have to refresh it every so often, but kind of a neat tip. Anyway, here's short desk. It currently has no format rule. I'm going to go in and open the source because, again, short description is used in a lot of different places. The short description is used by concepts, tasks, references. It's used at a very high level. So here's the short description. And when I take a look at a short description, I'm just going to go to it in the structure view. And just like with mapped, it's a different screen resolution. So everything's off a little as well when I'm working with it. But I want to make sure that it's nice and visible on your side. It has no format rule. FrameMaker gives you something that no other approach to working with DITA gives you. It gives you this very visual, guided way of working with things. What I want is a text format rule for a short description. So I double click. I want a rule that will always apply, all context. Now, I could also go in and do things like a context rule with my if-then, or a level rule that counts the number of headings, but I'm doing an all context. Always treat this as a paragraph and use the paragraph format tag, and let's see if I can type this one correctly, called short, I almost messed that up, description. My rule is always use short description. Now again, short description might look like body, so check out if I go in and I do something a little silly like a heading 2. I can give it any name that I want. I save it. I update my EDD. And then I go to my chapter and I import. Whoa, that looks horrible, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. That cannot at all be confused for the body paragraph next to it. Let's go in and make sure that I get this correct, though. Instead of heading 2, it should actually be short description. Description. And then back to my EDD, and I update it. And then I'd make sure that I do the same type of a thing for my tasks and my concepts and my references. Oh my. Update. And over to my chapter. And now when I import, there's my short description. It's large, it's ugly, but it's definitely noticeable. So I did several different sets of changes. I now have my chapter. I'm just going to highlight everything in my chapter and delete it, so I have nothing left. This is the part that scares me every time I do a save as. I'm going to go not from my template version into the real templates, into the actual concept template, which I then, oh, it pains me. I overwrite it and I save over it with my fingers crossed, and I close my custom files. I close off everything. And then I come along and I choose DITA new concept. It opens it up, and here it is. The short description is with my custom format. The prologue I can delete, and when I come to the con body and I insert a section inside here, it automatically inserts it with a title that is in blue, and the paragraph that has my body format. And if I put in an unordered list, these look correct as well. So each of those changes has gone through and shown a little bit in each of the slides. When you are ready, and with extreme caution, making sure that you have backups, and then double checking that you have backups, and then getting other people to validate that you have backups, you can replace all of the default Adobe templates with your own. Make sure you match the path, make sure you match the names, and then test it. And when you're done, test it. And when you're done, test it. Make sure that it works. When it works, then you can start to hand it off to other people. And you can also look at the author template versus the publish template. They are in 2 different locations. Again, I might want my authors to see tags on. I might want my author to have a watermark that says draft copy. I might want my authors to have whatever tools make it easiest for them to write. But then when it comes to publishing, I go to the structure XML DITA output templates. Very, very similar file set in there. There's a DITA 1.3, there's a chapter template, there's a couple of templates. Again, your path may differ a bit, but the important parts stand out. And from what you've seen in the video, you can work your way through and you can start to build your own templates. There is further and geeky reading. Others have spoken about the idea of going in and customizing the FrameMaker environment. And yes, there are FrameMaker customizations that are there in a PDF document. There is a FrameMaker INI file that you can work with, and that QR code will take you to this slide deck so that you can work your way through and find the materials. There is one other option. You can use all of these ideas. You can build yourself a custom structured application that will point to custom folder locations. In Structure Tools, under Structured Application Designer, you can take an existing application like the DITA 1.3 concept, and you can go in and point to your own template. Instead of in the FrameMaker XML DITA 1.3, etc. folder, you can actually put your own templates together, and when you have your own template, you would save as and create your own structured application. Instead of overwriting the defaults from Adobe, you can actually go and build your entire custom workflow. You still need to have the custom templates. You still need to apply the ideas that were shown inside this set of slides. And no presentation is complete without that blatant self-promotional plug piece. But wait, there is more. You can contact me. That's all my contact information. If you want to try this, and since I've messed up that one with the bullets, what I'm going to do is anybody who contacts me and says, hey, Bernard, can you help us out, get started with this? I will get you started with the first one or two on my dime. You put a bunch of time into working with this with Adobe. You put a bunch of time into the presentations over the last few days, and you still have more time to go. I've put in a couple of hours of prep, and I've put in 51 minutes now of presentation. I want to make sure that you get something from this and that you really have a clear understanding at the end of the day exactly how easy it can be to go in and do customization when it comes to your PDF publishing. Using the ideas from what Matt showed you, if you set up your FrameMaker template and you are happy with the look and you want to go to a mobile app or you want to go to HTML5, it will use the look of your FrameMaker template. So you could technically just use the FrameMaker defaults if you're happy with them for your entire mobile environment as well, or as Matt showed us, go in, customize. You can use the toolkit as Elliot showed us. There are all kinds of publishing options. That's what makes FrameMaker fantastic. That's what makes DITA a really powerful way to work with content. So with all of that said, I think I managed to hit most of the questions as they came up. But Stefan, anything that I have missed out on that I need to make sure that I cover?
I think you did not miss anything.
Perfect. In that case,
there's just a new question. There was just a new question coming in from Ralph Classic. Does Adobe Update Manager override the customized template? Struct Apps FM is updated June. Good question, Ralph. Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you want to answer that?
There's definitely time for conversation during, and I'll try to address it. But I want to pack as much in as I can because you can follow the video afterwards. And it has been a long day for everyone, I'm sure. So I will give the last word to you, Stefan. Thank you to you and to everybody else who has participated, either as attendees or as speakers. Enjoy the next day and all the best into the weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bernard, for giving this last presentation of today.